We are almost here. Another week is up on us. You already know what I say. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, no matter where you are. Thanks for checking in. Wolfpack Performance Talk Podcast, and the hottest live show ever on the planet, F1 Minute. I'm your host, Jay, and we are talking about the sprint format, which has been something that's been juggling around for quite some time, how they were going to do it. We talked about it on this channel, about how I felt they should do it. You all offered some pretty good ideas about what you felt they should do. Some of us went in even adding in an inverse order. All of this good stuff to lower teams, to lower drivers, to all of this stuff to try to make the sprint make more sense. Not even worrying about it being entertaining first. We were talking about ideas to make it make sense, right? For it to be valid to happen on a race weekend. And then you had Stefano coming up with an idea like, you know what, wouldn't it be great if we had a sprint every damn race? And I don't think that would be great. But we are in a race week. We are almost to a race weekend. The hump day is coming, not quite here yet, but it will be here. And then from there, we'll be on a downward slide, as we will have qualifying earlier. So we're going to take a look at this format, and I'm going to let you see what you think about the new format. What's going on, Spam, Spider R35, Galactus, J London, what's happening? Also, I just sent our first member shirt over to South Africa. Also sent the first shirt ever to go to the Netherlands and South Africa. So a big shout out. International shipping went out today for the Wolfpack member shirts. Don't forget to get that purple sectors lifestyle swag right below in the comment section, and the hats. Don't forget about those. But let's get to this. Let's take a look at this schedule, and you tell me what you think about it, all right? We just had F1 Minute. We talked about several things. James Allison, Mike Elliott. We already know there are going to be several big upgrades, or updates, not upgrades, because upgrades need to be something that yield positive results, and we don't know if that's going to happen. There are going to be several big updates, so we're going to be looking for those. I also might likely do a live discussing those updates, especially if I can put everything together, come to you. So let's take a look at this schedule that we are about to see this weekend. Okay, so what is this whole sprint shootout thing, okay? Essentially, the sprint shootout is pretty much like our typical qualifying session. All right, you're going to have Q1, Q2, Q3. Of course, you're going to have the 5 lowest cars out of each one of those sections. It's going to drop off. And then they're going to have mandatory tire. All right, so the tires are not going to be something that the teams will be able to decide on. It is mandatory medium tires all the way up until Q3. Do also notice that the regression of time from Q1, Q2 to Q3, you go from 12 minutes to 10 minutes to 8 minutes, okay? And there is still a 5-car elimination, which we've been we've been accustomed to that from regular qualifying. But the difference in the time here decreasing, and also the mandatory tire usage, okay? So this is a 3-part session, as you see right there. And this is only going to set the sprint grid, all right? So the sprint now does not affect at all. It does not affect at all Sunday's grid, which I don't know how some of you feel about it. Me, I like that they kind of try to separate it, but not really. I feel like the sprint could have been added and implemented a little bit better. So we're going to go back into this and let's take a look at some other things. So the Friday afternoon qualifying session now sets the grid for Sunday's Grand Prix. So we're going to have qualifying on Friday. All right, qualifying will not go down on Saturday as typically we'll have FP1 Friday, FP2 Friday, then FP3 qualifying on a Saturday, just some time in between, and then we go into the race on Sunday. Now the qualifying is going to happen Friday, period. Saturday shootout and sprint do not affect the starting grid. So now we're going to look into the actual state. Now they do have the schedule right now. It's been revised. Who's to say it won't be revised again? But we're going to take a look at the proclaimed schedule, okay, the tentative schedule. Let's take a look at it. All right, so this is the way it's supposed to go. It is supposed to be Friday. You're supposed to have FP1 and then qualifying. All right, you got FP1, then you got qualifying. That FP1 and that qualifying will set the grid order for Sunday. Okay, so Friday is going to set the grid order for Sunday. Then we're going to come in Saturday. We're going to have the sprint qualifying, which you already saw, which is so-called the sprint shootout. That is going to go Q1, Q2, Q3. You will start a 15-12 or 12-10 to 8 minutes, 5-car elimination. And there's a mandatory tire usage of mediums all the way up until Q2. Then Q3 which I don't know why they're calling it Q2. You know, I get it, but I mean, could have came up with something different. Spider R35 says, I wish it was one-shot quali for the sprint. And I did say that before on another show. You might as well do a one-shot quali, right? I do agree with that. I'm not opposed to that. So mandatory tires and then sprint qualifying. And then the same day, they're going to have the sprint race, which is deemed to be 17 laps. The sprint is done. It does not affect anymore on Sunday race day. And then we will go into race day, which that grid order has already been set that Friday and have the race. Okay, so fine and dandy. This is what we have. This is what they're tossing around. So my first thing is, what is this? What is the intent of the schedule setup? What is the real intent of the schedule setup? I mean, we had a supposed sprint shootout. We pretty much already had that in qualifying. I mean, we had that in regular qualifying. Q1, Q2, Q3, 5 cars got eliminated every qualifying sector, and it was over. I mean, we had that. So I'm not sure. It's not really clear what are they trying to do, aside from the clear and distinct fact that now sprint does not affect the grid order. Because before, we had qualifying, and then qualifying set the grid order for the sprint, and then the sprint finishing racing results set the grid order for Sunday. So everything was affected. Everything mattered and counted all through the week. I would almost say that in that format was a little bit more pressing than this format. Because at this point in time, it's like the sprint doesn't even affect Sunday, so it really doesn't matter. And you don't have to worry about anything. You're going to set the grid order for Sunday, so everybody knows where they sit. So it's like, what are we really racing for? Like, is there something that you all want to tell us? Paul, what's going on? Big shout out to the fan. Purple sectors ordered up. Getting closer to an F1 weekend. One-shot quality would be great. Peace and love to you all. Peace and love to you too, brother. And we are, matter of fact, one of the other family members said this much. Spider R35 said, I wish one-shot quality. I said it before. I'm not opposed to a one-shot qualifier. I'm not even opposed to one-shot qualifier being set for the race, honestly. And this, I say this to facilitate something that other people have said, that they want to see a bit more of uncertainty when it comes to the racing, when it comes to race day. They want to give the drivers a little bit something else to look forward to. They don't want the drivers to have so much free practice to where they know pretty much before qualifying even happens or before race day, we pretty much know what happens. Galactica says teams will have to get correct on the first and second run. On your out, no time to play around with car setup. This may drivers push to the hard, maybe. Yeah, but it's only only for the sprint, though. I mean, I understand it, right? Because this is true. We lost FP2 and FP3, so this is true. Galactica is saying a very good point, right? You gotta go ahead, get your setup right. But even in qualifying, you're still able to make changes, Q1, Q2, Q3. Teams are going to go back in the garage. So even though you don't have a full lengthy hour of 30 minutes of FP1, FP2, FP3, you're still getting a little bit of that time in qualifying. And I think this is where it comes. Akondu says, Jay and fam, what it do? Hey, Max ain't supposed to be quitting. Hey, supposedly that's what he said he was going to do. Judical McBudical, it's Ross week. You know what he's saying. You know what he's saying. That's what I'm talking about. It is race week. So I think if they were looking to try to really do something with this schedule, then what you would do is you would have a FP1 and then you would have a one-shot quali. That's what I think. You got an hour of free practice, and then you come in, one-shot quali, and no traffic on track. Every car gets his opportunity to go out on track, lay it down, come back in. That is your time. That is your time. Now, it is something that we do know. If they did do a one-shot quali, there's a team in Red Bull, because of their setup and because of things that we've seen, that might not benefit them so well. They need time to get heat into those tires, all right, due to their setup. So that could mix things up, and it also facilitates or appeases some people who say, you know what, I wish they just go out and they'd have to figure it out on the fly and make whatever little adjustments they could after Perk Ferme, and then let that be that, and give teams that are a bit more leading edge, like who's going to get the leading edge, who has the driver that can adjust on the fly the best, who has the team that can do the most with the least, it would drive that a bit more, right? It would drive a bit more, not only competitiveness, but opportunity for midfield teams to possibly creep up into it because they happen to dial in correctly. All of this is to make competition a bit more challenging. It's not for entertainment, not at least in my point of view. It's not for entertainment. So when it comes to me looking at this schedule, I'm like, okay, free practice is for an hour. I mean, is that, kind of like FP1, FP2 in there? Like, then you got qualifying. I'm not really digging that. I really wish it was a one-shot quali for race day. And then when you came down to the sprint shootout, okay, well, it's the sprint shootout. They're still getting a lot of time on the track. You're still getting a lot of time on the track. I'm like this. Don't even have the sprint. Don't even have a whole sprint qualifying for an hour. They just need to go out and do another one shot if you want to have them separate and then go from there. I'm not really loving this schedule. I'm not really loving it. I'm not. I'm just going to keep it honest. I'm trying to find a way to like it, but I'm not really loving it. I think, honestly, there was something that I think if they were going to go right here to this format, that one-shot quality should have definitely made it in there. One-shot quality should have been in there. And the fact that it's not says that they're kind of, but they're not sure. All we really wanted to do was separate the sprint from the race. That's really all they wanted to do. If you're really going to go for it, go deep in it, and really try to make something happen and shake it up, you're not going to have all of this time where you're going to have drivers on track for an hour, then you're going to give them another hour for qualifying, then you're going to give them another hour for sprint qualifying, and then you're going to give them another, then they got the sprint race. I mean, if you pretty much still packaged all of that time on track that teams are going to have and able to. Now, I would like to know, where's Parc Fermé going to come into play? That it would be important right here. Where's Parc Fermé going to come into play? Is Parc Fermé coming into play right after the 28th on Friday at qualifying for the regular race on Sunday? And then from there, you can't change anything going into the sprint qualifying and even in the sprint race. Now, maybe that in itself does a little bit of something, but, maybe not too much. I just think I would have liked to have seen a one-shot quali on there. That is what I think. I think that would have been dope. I think that would have been better to do. Now, the mandatory tire situation. I don't think that was great either, right? You got mandatory mediums and then softs. So at this point in time, are you just like, oh yeah, we're trying to make it like an uncertain thing so teams don't really know how the hard tire performs. So if they go on it, it's a big gamble. Well, if you wanted to do that, then you really should have just said it's a mandatory tire. You should really, what would have been cool. Listen, what would have been cool is everybody had to use the mandatory prototype tire, not even the tires that we have currently for this season. You have to mandatorily use throughout the entire process on a sprint weekend a prototype tire. See, this is where you start adding spice in. Paul says, I want a one warm-up lap, one hot lap, that counts as qualifying, and a cool-down lap, that is after a practice session. That's it after a practice session. I'm not mad at that. And so, yeah, that's what I would say, right? Mandatory prototype tire. So now you're really kind of like, so now the teams don't know, they don't get any data on the tires that they're going to have to pull out for the race. And you go from there. And even more so, like, you're going to have to use the prototype tire in the sprint. You're not going to even get to pull any data currently right now as this track sits in these conditions and characteristics until race day. If you really want to do something to shake it up, that's what you start doing to shake it up. Less quality time, can't play with the car set up much. Yep, I agree with that. That's why I say one-shot quality. You got one shot. You better get as much information you can, make some tweaks, and hope you hit the dot when it comes up on Sunday race and the lights go out. I'm feeling that. I'm all with that. So, yeah, I'm not here it is again, the sprint shootout. 12 minutes Q1, 5-car elimination before going into Q2. 10 minutes in Q2, another 5-car elimination, which we've seen that. 8 minutes in Q3, mandatory medium tires for Q1, Q2, mandatory soft for Q3, and there you go. There's your sprint shootout, and here is your supposed schedule at this point in time for our race weekend, which will start on Friday with both a pre-practice and a qualifier. And then Saturday, we will have a sprint qualifying again and a sprint race. And then Sunday, we will have a race. Ta-da! we'll see how this feels, because it's one thing on paper. It's another thing when they actually start running it to kind of get us to watch it and see what we actually think about it. I would love to see what you all think about it. I'm going to be live, maybe in different form, but I'm going to be live for qualifying. I might be live for both of those qualifiers, both the sprint and the one for the regular qualifying, which is going to set the grid for Sunday. So I might be live both Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. That's a 3-day live that you're talking about here. So be here so we can either talk crap about it, or we can offer good suggestions about it, or we might like it. We might actually, Mikey, I think he likes it. We might actually like it. We'll have to see, right? Well, I'm not knocking it yet. I'm just saying I don't like what I see right now. I don't like what I see right now. And I think what I see right now could have been better. And I think we've come up with better options here on this platform. And also keep in mind that this schedule also does give them an opportunity to try and I'm gonna reserve to say what I was gonna say until further notice. I'm going to reserve it. All right. So there's your sprint schedule. There's the weekend that we're about to go into. Let me know if you like it. Let me know if you don't like it. Let me know if you would have just trashed it. Let me know what you would add to it to make it better, or how you would deconstruct it, reconstruct it, and make it something new, make it something that would make sense for everybody, or majority of the watchers and viewers, and the drivers and the teams. All right. So hit that like button, share it. Don't forget, F1 Minute is live 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time every Monday, even off the back of GPs. I'm your host, Jay. I'll see you all later. Peace.